Good afternoon, everybody. I won't go through the full hybrid protocol. Seem a bit echoey, Marth, is it? Or is it me? It's okay. I won't go through the full hybrid protocol because we haven't got anybody here on hybrid today. The meeting has started recording. So good afternoon. Welcome to Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council's Cabinet meeting on Wednesday, the 14th of May, 2025. Hang on just a second. I think we've got a bus coming through.
I think Ernie's broken the lift. Reversing. Is it Mrs. Ernie?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Martha. Please note the meeting has been recorded and may be broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the authority. So we'll move on to agenda item 1. Apologies for any absence. There's no apologies for absence. Agenda item 2. Any declarations of interest, please? No declarations of interest. We move on to the main items on the agenda, the strategic part. So the first item is agenda item 3, the Capital Budget Monitoring Report 24-25, month 11 outturn, to consider a report from the Director of Finance. Councillor Anna Williams-Price, I leave that with yourself.
Thank you. This report provides an overview of the Council's capital expenditure and financing performance for the year 24-25, focusing on the period ending the 28th of February 2025 or month 11. It presents the current financial position for both core funded and externally funded capital projects, as well as revised expenditure forecasts for the financial year. The original 24-25 core capital programme, as approved by Cabinet on the 12th of February 2024, totals £17.358 million, and subsequent budget adjustments and project reprofiling have been incorporated into the revised programme figures presented in this report. In addition to core funded schemes, the Council is managing a range of externally funded capital projects totalling £43.070 million, which is supported by various external grants. So as of the 28th of February 25, the actual expenditure on core funded projects stands at £12.702 million, with a projected year-end underspend of £22,000. Expenditure on externally funded projects to date totals £43.070 million, with a projected underspend of £1.802 million. The report also outlines capital financing plans, projected capital receipts and budget amendments, providing assurance on the effective financial management of the Council's capital investment programme, and appendices are included which detail expenditure by project and any major variances. So I move the recommendations, which are 2.1, the month 11 capital monitoring report for 24-25 be noted, 2.2, the budget amendments for core funded projects be approved, and 2.3, variances to the budgets be noted.
Thanks, Councillor Anna Williams-Price. Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, happy to second, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Louise Minette-Vaux. We'll open it up for questions. Any questions from anybody? Any comments? No? Simon, I think we'll take that straight to the vote. Thanks, Simon. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is agenda item 4, which is the earmarked reserves review, to consider a report from the Director of Finance. Councillor Anna Williams-Price, over to you once more.
Thank you. So this report presents the findings of a recent review of the Council's earmarked reserves, undertaken in accordance with the Local Government Finance Act 1992 and the Council's Corporate Reserves Policy. Earmark reserves, of course, play a vital role in supporting our financial planning by providing funding for specific, time-limited purposes and helping to manage financial risks across services. As part of the Council's ongoing commitment to strong financial governance and effective resource management, this review assessed the continuing need for individual reserves, identified those that remain relevant, and recommends the release of those no longer required. The report also includes proposals for reinstating certain reserves previously deemed surplus as part of the 23-24 year-end process, where service areas have demonstrated a continuing need. In line with the reserves policy, any further requests for the creation of earmarked reserves at the end of 24-25 financial year will be considered as part of the provisional outturn report and submitted for Cabinet approval in the next municipal year. This report ensures that reserves balances are held and utilised in a transparent, strategic and efficient manner, which align with our service delivery objectives. So if I move the recommendations, which are 2.1, the earmarked reserves review report to be received, 2.2, reinstatement of earmarked reserves deemed surplus to requirement as part of the 23-24 review and detailed in Appendix 1 be approved. 2.3, the release of earmarked reserves surplus to requirement to the General Fund Reserve as detailed in Appendix 2 be approved. And 2.4, requests for creation of earmarked reserves at 31st of March 2025 will be included in the provisional outturn 24-25 report and to be noted.
Thanks, Councillor Williams-Price. Do we have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. We'll open that up to questions. Have we got any questions? No questions? Any comments? We'll take that straight to the vote then, Simon. Geraint as well. That's twice.
It's twice. I'll have to think it's
Apologies.
you. Sorry, that's carried, Chair.
Thanks, Geraint. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is agenda item 5. Anthony, you will get used to this. Agenda item 5, the Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Act 2024. To consider the report from the Director of Governance and Resources. Councillor Anna Williams-Price.
Thank you. This report outlines the key provisions of the Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Act 2024, which was enacted on the 24th of May 24 and introduces a new consumer protection enforcement framework effective from the 6th of April 2025. The Act strengthens existing legislation by introducing new measures to address unfair trading practices, enhance consumer rights and grant enforcement powers. The report seeks approval for delegated authority to the Head of Public Protection to authorise officers and initiate legal proceedings under the new legislation, ensuring the Council is prepared to meet its enforcement responsibilities. So I'll move the recommendations at 2.1, which is the Head of Public Protection be given delegated authority to authorise officers under the Consumer Rights Act 2015 and the Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Act 2024. And at 2.2, the Head of Public Protection be given delegated authority to commence legal proceedings for breaches of the Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Act 2024 following consultation with the authority's legal services.
Thanks, Councillor Williams-Price. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, happy to second, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Scriven. We'll take that straight to questions. Comments? Or Councillor Scriven, sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question on this one. You know, there are things in here such as like the tackling unfair practice. I'm just wondering, as an example, in terms of things like fake reviews, so what sort of monitoring will be put in place to identify things like that? How are we going to understand whether or not fake reviews have been put up by the companies themselves? So I'm wondering how that would work in practice.
Paul?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, in terms of monitoring that type of activity, it'll be intelligence-led. What we anticipate is a lot of these review sites will have bot monitoring, so it'll identify if individuals are using bots to upload fake review sites. That then comes through to ourselves with the Competitions Markets Authority to take the appropriate action. So yeah, we will need to work with a lot of the multinational companies who rely on reviews to have automated bots that will detect that sort of activity and then pass that through to us as relevant authorities to take the appropriate enforcement action. From a local level, it'll be very difficult for us to do from the ground up, so we are reliant on working with some of these big companies in identifying these fake reviews and taking appropriate action.
Okay, just like to follow up on that, so in terms of the enforcement, Paul, so what sort of like level of fines would be put towards something like that? What would you be looking at?
If it falls under the Competition Markets Authority, then the level of fines will be set within the legislation. In terms of local enforcement, the regulations do carry custodial sentences, so they'll be tribal either way, and they can carry up what they call level 5 fines within the magistrates' court, so they have got sizable finding capabilities with the courts, and it does carry a custodial sentence, so it is at the higher end of offending.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Jamie. Have we got any more questions? We'll take that straight to comments. No comments. Geraint, should we take that to the vote?
The vote, Chair. Carried, Chair.
Thank you very much, Geraint. Agenda item 6 is the Environmental Protection Single-Use Vapes Wales Regulations 2024. To consider the report from the Director of Governance and Resources, Councillor Annie Williams-Price.
Thank you. This report is of a similar nature to the previous in that it ensures that we're up to date with current regulations, and the report outlines the enforcement responsibilities of the local authority under the Environmental Protection Single-Use Vapes Wales Regulations 2024, which come into force on the 1st of June 2025. The legislation aims to reduce environmental harm caused by single-use vapes by prohibiting their supply and introducing both criminal and civil sanctions for non-compliance. The report seeks delegated authority for the Head of Public Protection to authorise officers and initiate legal proceedings, as well as issue civil sanctions, including a proposed fixed monetary penalty of £200, which will be subject to review after the first year of implementation. I move the recommendations, which are at 2.1, the Head of Public Protection be given delegated authority to authorise officers under the Environmental Protection Single-Use Vapes Wales Regulations 2024. 2.2, the Head of Public Protection be given delegated authority to commence legal proceedings and the issue of civil sanctions for breaches of the Environmental Protection Single-Use Vapes Wales Regulations 2024 following consultation with the authority's legal services. And 2.3, where a civil sanction is deemed appropriate, a fixed monetary penalty of £200 is issued with a further review.
Thanks, Councillor Williams-Price. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Scriven?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Scriven. We'll take that straight through to members' questions. Any questions? Councillor Scriven?
Yeah, just a quick question on this one. Obviously, businesses will be aware of the legislative change coming in, but I'm wondering from a comms perspective, are we doing anything in order to, especially from the geographic, in terms of who actually uses the items, are mostly younger people, and now we're going to put that message out there in terms of the single-use vapes are now illegal to be sold, so they're not trying to access them through any means necessary that as young people are. If they want these devices, they're going to go out of their way to try and get them either way.
Thanks, Councillor Scriven. Yeah, we've already been working with the service area to put that plan as part of our campaign plan, and obviously from the 1st of June as well, we'll be putting regular comms out.
Oh, great. Thanks, Kerry.
Thanks, Kerry. Any more questions? No, we'll take that to members' comments. Councillor Scriven?
Yeah, I'll just quickly say on this one, Chair, I'm really happy to see this has come in place. Like, the single-use vapes have been a blight on most authorities. You'll see them on the highways, different roads. They've got these little battery lights that are flash like a little LED, which you can see all around the streets. But not just that, cracking down on vaping in general, especially from young people's perspective. We know from the extrapolated churn data and what's coming out of the health boards that we're still not aware of the health defects that these are causing. So I think the more that we can do in order to prevent young people from picking up these devices, I fully support that and completely back any changes that come in. So I'm really happy to see this.
Thanks, Councillor Scriven. Any more comments? No. Geraint, we'll take that to the vote.
That's carried, Chair.
Thanks, Geraint. We'll move on to agenda item 7, which is the Corporate Risk Report, Quarter 4, to consider the report from the Director of Governance and Resources. Councillor Anna Williams-Price.
Thank you. This report provides a comprehensive update on the Council's corporate risk management activity at the end of Q4 of the 24-25 financial year. It reflects the ongoing work undertaken to strengthen the Council's approach to identifying, managing and mitigating corporate risks in line with the Council's risk management strategy and policy, which was approved in January 2025. The report includes the latest version of the Corporate Risk Register, reviewed and endorsed by the Corporate Management Team on the 23rd of April 2025. Key developments outlined in this report include the successful implementation of actions arising from a previous internal audit review of risk management arrangements. Progress has been made against each recommendation, including improved documentation of mitigation actions, clearer risk prescriptions and updates to the risk policy framework. The Council has also made significant efforts to embed risk management into wider governance and performance frameworks, helping to ensure risks are more actively managed in a more integrated and sustainable way. The report highlights 3 reductions in corporate risk scores, reflecting improved controls and progress in specific service areas, and proposes the de-escalation of 1 risk to be monitored at service level. Additionally, a more structured engagement process for scrutiny committees has been introduced to support more effective oversight and challenge. Looking ahead, the report sets out further actions to enhance the Council's approach, including the development of an annual risk report and further integration of risk with financial and performance reporting. Colleagues will see the updated Corporate Risk Register at Appendix 1. And I would also like to make colleagues aware that a report was also brought forward to the Governance and Audit Committee on Monday. So there is 1 recommendation which I will now move, which is at 2.1, progress on the management of the Council's corporate risks and the Corporate Risk Register as at the end of Q4 be approved.
Thanks, Councillor Williams-Price. Do we have someone to second it, please?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Do we have any questions? Any comments? Geraint, we'll take that one to the vote.
That's carried, Chair.
Thanks, Geraint. We'll move on to agenda item 8, which is the School Instrument of Government, to consider a report from the Director of Education. Councillor Gareth Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. This report seeks approval of a new instrument of government for the Taff Bargoed Learning Partnership. The reasons for the new instrument is outlined in 4.1, 4.45 and 4.6 of the report, and the proposed changes are summarised in section 5 of the report. I move the recommendation of 2.1, which is that the new instrument of government for Taff Bargoed Learning Partnership is approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Lewis. Do we have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Minette-Vokes. We'll take that straight to members' questions. Questions, members' comments? No comments? Geraint, we'll take that one to the vote.
Carried, Chair.
Thanks, Geraint. Agenda item 9 is the additional support funding delegation model to consider the report from the Director of Education. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. On the 18th of March this year, the School Budget Forum recommended changes to the Council scheme of delegation for additional subject support funding, and these changes are outlined in paragraphs 4.61 and 4.62 of the report. The consultation process with school governing bodies is outlined in section 5, and we can see a significant majority of schools supported these changes. The additional support budget is already included within the Council's 25-26 budget. However, a virement is required to transfer it to the individual school's budget for this financial year. The recommendations are outlined from 2.1 through to 2.3 of the report. At 2.1, the proposal to amend the scheme of delegation as detailed in 4.6.1 be approved. 2.2, the proposal to review the new delegated arrangements in 3 years' time to assess whether changes are required to the model in line with the timescales outlined in 6.5 be approved. And finally, 2.3, a virement of 2.4 million from the additional support budget to the ISB, the individual schools budget, in the Council's 25-26 budget be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Lewis. Do we have someone to second it, please?
Thank you. Happy to second.
Thanks, Councillor Williams-Price. We'll take that straight to members' questions. Members' comments? Comments, we'll take that to the vote, Geraint.
It's carried, Chair.
Thanks, Geraint. That concludes the business for today. We'll move on to agenda item 10, which is any other business. We haven't any. Thank you all for your attendance today. You're free to go to get yourself ready now for full council of the Mayor's inauguration at 5 p.m. Thank you all.